And a word of prayer, please.
Dear Father in heaven, thank you for this beautiful snow that you're giving to us right now. Thank you that it's white and it's perfect, even that it's cold, Lord. I thank you that we all arrived here safely. I know the roads were a little bit slippery, but your hand was upon each one of us as we came in, and I thank you for that watch care over us. And Lord, I thank you for our Sunday school classes that we have, for the lessons that we are learning. And Lord, I ask that you speak through our Sunday school teachers and open our ears and our hearts that we'll be able to learn. Give us the wisdom to understand what you are wanting us to learn. And Father, be with the pastor as he brings the morning message then. And Father, speak through him as well. And just thank you for your many blessings and for little Wyatt not being well. Father, I pray that you heal him up soon so that he can come back to church again. And I didn't catch the rest of it, the others, but you know that, Father, and you know each one of them. And I ask that you move in those situations. In Jesus' name, I praise you, Father. Thank you.
Amen. Thanks, Steph. All right, so we're going to get right into the lesson this morning, called The Things We Do for Love. And I had a Bible story, it's actually the one in Genesis, in my heart and mind all week long. I just couldn't get away from it. And so, well, just think about this. That the story in Genesis 29:20 through 30, that's about Jacob and Leah and Rachel. Okay, so this weird triangle that they had back there, back then when they had multiple wives. And I had it stuck in my head. I kept wondering if Rachel was even saved. And so I couldn't get away from it because the Bible talks about how Jacob married Leah because she was snuck in, and we'll talk about that in a minute, snuck into him on the wedding night. And he's like, oh no, that's not who I loved, you know. What are you doing? And so then he worked another 7 years for her. And then he stayed another 7 years. So he ended up there like 20 years. And so all that time, Rachel is with Jacob. And then when they leave, she steals her father's gods. So I'm like, why would she need her father's gods? Why would she need that? And so then it made me like, you know, so all week long I was bouncing off Pastor, you know, what do you think about this? And we actually turned over another leaf this morning or yesterday, that perhaps she was bitter. She was bitter at her father because she snuck, because her father did that with Leah. And that she was bitter and she knew he loved those gods. And so she grabbed those gods and she hit him. And he came chasing up because he loved his little god so much. So anyway, but see how interesting the Bible is? Okay, so I thought for sure something in that part of it was what my lesson was going to be this week. And I just, oh man, I just tossed and turned and, Lord, show me. And how about this? How about that? Well, none of it. But he did make things very clear. And this is what we're going to talk about, the things we do for love. So recently, yesterday, I started watching football. Okay,
The
yeah.
things you do for love. Yeah.
My husband has asked me several times, and I guess it's playoffs or something right now. I always have a very difficult time keeping this ball where it's going, who's got it, and, you know, and why they stop all the time. Just take the ball and run, please. You know, but they tackle each other, and it's just not my thing. I enjoy watching basketball a little bit more, but I'm just not a sports watching person so much. And I do enjoy volleyball. But it's something he enjoys. And he's asked several times, and I usually just say, no thanks. And I go watch, you know, one of my little TV series is Sue Thomas FBI or something on my iPad if I want to watch something. But yesterday I'm like, you know what? I love him, and he wants me to do this for some weird reason, you know. My husband's a romantic. Years ago, when I didn't drink coffee, he wanted me to drink coffee so bad so we'd have that bonding time together. I mean, it was so cute. Finally, one year at snow camp, I'm like, I can hardly stay awake. And he's like, want to try coffee? And from there on out, I was hooked, and we do have our little coffee time, and it is kind of, you know. So he loves that type of stuff. So this seemed to make him very happy. And then he explained the whole thing to me as they were playing, which was good, but he lost me after a while. I'm just like, yeah. But I could see how happy that made him. And I thought, man, something so little made him so happy. You know, and okay, so there was 2 games on yesterday because of the playoffs. He got me for the first half of the first one. After that, I'm like, okay, you know, we'll try this again later, you know, but not right now. I just can't do this. And even he didn't watch the whole second game. But it's cute because him and Corey are texting, or him and Devin, or Devin will come over and watch it. And so, you know, it's just another way to bond. But yeah, I had enough at the half-point mark. But I did find some I sit there and analyze a little bit more during it. I'm like, well, why is he behaving that way? And, you know, what about this? You know, I'm not really into the football so much as the theatrics of it all, you know, so. But anyway, so. Devin kind of tries to interact with them on the TV too, and it doesn't work so well. But, you know, this is something I did in the name of love. I love my husband. And the older we get, the more I'm trying to show him that I love him, because time is short. And being more mature now than even yesterday or the day before or years ago, I've come to a greater understanding of what a gift God has given me in my husband. And so it's becoming even more important all the time for me to show him that I love him. So I sat there, or actually I laid on him with my phone, you know, and listened and you know, let him do the play-by-play, explain everything to me, and it made him happy. So that's what I did for love, and I'll do it again. And you know, we do think, you guys can probably think in your mind of something that you do for somebody else for love. Fishing?
I hate fishing, but Nick loves it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we'll go.
Yep. Donna?
A dish, food.
Making a dish, yep. That's another thing that I just don't cook as well. I can't taste as well since we lost smell and stuff. So yeah, I just don't love it as much, and the kids are gone. And I have a tendency to throw things together, like all in one dish. And my husband said the other day, he's like, I'd really love just to have some food that didn't touch each other. And I had kind of forgotten, I knew he was like that, but I had kind of forgotten that is the way he really likes to eat, like meat, sides, like that. And I am just dump. Oh, you know, I put stuff in the crock pot, some meat and some sauce, and I'm like, you know what, some veggies would be good in there too. And I'll dump that in there, and I'd be like, I could even put some rice in there, and by the time it's done cooking, you know, so I love one-pot meals, but him not quite as much. So that day that he said that to me, I was like, ouch, I need to be cooking. So at the time, my grocery delivery has run out, and I'm trying it without it. But anyway, I still had it at that time. I did a grocery delivery, had some pork chops, some shake and bake delivered, and he came home to shake and bake pork chops, potato dish, and a side dish, and he was beaming, you know, because it had meant so much to me to see that it meant a lot to him that I would even put in a grocery order, get all that stuff. You know, that's what I'm talking about, the things we do for love. Man, I think all would taste tasty in a crock pot. but you know, it's important for me to, for me to do things that he likes and that he enjoys. So, you know, if you guys, you do that too, you know.
Sometimes the way we dress.
Yes, that's so good.
That approves it.
Yep.
They enjoy that. Like
Yep.
Joe likes red.
Yeah. So you probably wear more red than you normally would. Yeah, there are things like this. I love big necks and stuff. But my husband doesn't so much love. This is probably the most I can. So I tend not to, you know, be in goodwill and say, oh, I love this. And then I'm like, that's not his favorite look for me. You know, so I put it back because aren't I supposed to please him? So anyway, moving on. Let's look at a few examples of people in God's Word doing something that they don't love because they love someone else. We're going to go to Genesis 29, and we're going to read verses 20 to 30. Those verses say, and Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her. He really loved her. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go in unto her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he, Laban, took Leah his daughter and brought her to him, Jacob. And he went in unto her. Jacob went in unto Leah. And verse 24, and Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah his maid for a handmaid. And it came to pass in the morning, behold, it was Leah. Must have been a dark tent. And he said to Laban, what is this that thou hast done unto me? Did I not serve thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet another 7 years. And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, and he gave him Rachel his daughter to wife also. And Laban gave to Rachel his daughter Bilhah his handmaid to be her maid. Verse 30, and he went in also unto Rachel, and he loved also Rachel more than Leah, and served with him another 7 years. What a story of deceit.
Yeah.
It's very sad to me, you know, but not surprising. So Jacob, to stay on track, Jacob loved Rachel so much that even though he got duped, he still wanted Rachel, and he was willing to serve that other 7 years to have her. And that just, I mean, that is love. And what a tangled mess that is. And then later they, you know, Leah and Rachel are trading the hubby for mandrakes, you know, for some type of food. Just such craziness. Oh yeah, I mean, it's just craziness.
I need to read this again.
Yeah, it is something. And you know, and then I stop and think about, there's a little bit of side trail, but I stop and think about Leah and how she felt in all this. But you can't forget about how Rachel felt in all this. And then think about how Jacob felt in those. And then think of Laban. And Laban, you know, he was the cause of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jacob loved Rachel so much that he says, okay, I've got a wife that I really don't want. And how that must have made Leah feel. She knew that. And then, but I love Rachel so much that I'm going to serve. I'm going to serve under the man who deceived me like this. And that was how strong his love for Rachel was. That's a strong love. Now let's go to 1 Samuel 20.
What I'm amazed about that is that Leah did that because her father told her to,
Mm-hmm.
even though she probably didn't want to either.
Well, Pastor and I were talking about this. She probably always lived in Rachel's shadow, because if she was a not so beautiful gal and Rachel's beautiful, so she always lived in her shadow. She may have been, that could be the case, or she may have been just grateful because she didn't think she was going to be able to be married otherwise. And so she was willing to do this deceit. But yes, she had so much respect and love for her father, and that was the way girls were with their dads back. I mean, what they said went. And so, yeah, we don't know which way on that, but I do know that there was bad feelings there, you know, and I don't think it just started with Jacob. There were bad feelings before, probably because she always did live in the shadow of Rachel.
And still today, what people do because of tradition.
Yep.
And customs.
Yep.
Oh, could she have been a whiner to daddy?
Who, Rachel?
Leah.
Leah? Yeah.
If she's getting married, I don't know.
Yeah. And Laban could have been like, well, I can fix this and make you happy and get another 7 years of free labor here. We can make this work. Yeah, just total
See, I would
deceit.
think the opposite. I would think I could never live my life and be happy stealing her husband. I mean, the guy that she loved. I could never do that.
Yep.
It
It's
to me.
it is. It's quite a story, and I do encourage you to go back and read it and just let God speak to you. And, there's all these different facets. We're not told everything, but we're told enough. We know it's enough because that's what God told us. But we can stop and think, well, I wonder this, I wonder that. There's nothing wrong in that. That's why the Bible is a living word, and God reveals, He's going to show us. And I do say that by saying this too, though, we don't always have the answers, and that's okay. All right, so 1 Samuel chapter 20, verses 1 to 4 says, "And David fled from Naioth in Ramah, and came and said before Jonathan, What have I done? What is mine iniquity, and what is my sin before thy father, that he seeketh my life? And he said unto him, God forbid, thou shalt not die. Behold, my father will do nothing, either great or small, but that he will show it me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. And David sware moreover and said, Thy father certainly knoweth that I have found grace in thy eyes. And he saith, Let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, there is but a step between me and death. Then said Jonathan unto David, Whatsoever thy soul desireth, I will even do it for thee. He loved. David and Jonathan had a deep friendship, a very deep friendship. Don't let anyone ever tell you anything different. This is a sweet, deep, intimate friendship that is just friendship, but they dearly loved each other. And then jump down to verse 30. And you remember, go back to 4. It says, I will even do it for thee. Jonathan said, okay, I know what you're telling me. He's not calling David a liar. He's like, okay, we're gonna iron this out and we're gonna see. And verse number 30 says, Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan. And he said unto him, Thou son of the perverse rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thine own confusion and unto the confusion of thy mother's nakedness? Okay, so here we have Saul's been chasing David, trying to kill him. David's asking Jonathan, his best friend, like, why does your dad want to kill me? What is going on here? And Jonathan is saying, this can't be so. My dad's not going to kill you. I would know it. But then they do. He's like, we'll check into it. And Jonathan does find out that his father is trying to kill David. Here's a hard thing. Jonathan knew helping David was going to bring down the wrath of his dad. Okay? I don't know what kind of relationship they had before, but from what he said, Behold, my father will not do either great or small, but that he will show it to me. That sounds like a pretty decent relationship, wouldn't you say? And that's about all I can see into that. But Jonathan knew that David was going to be the next king. And he knew what was right, and he knew he was his best friend. So all those things together, he had a great, great love for David. And he risked what he knew was going to come down the pipeline, which was his dad's wrath. And what Saul said to him, his dad said to him in verse 30 is pretty harsh. He was very, very angry with Jonathan. But that's how much love that Jonathan had for David. And, the things that we do for love, sometimes what we do for love risks our relationship with our families because it's right and because it's love. Yeah. Okay? So, that was not an easy choice for Jonathan, but he did take it. Other examples that we're not going to turn to, we go over this story a lot, of Ruth and Naomi. Ruth had a very deep love and respect for Naomi. And what did Ruth do in the name of love for Naomi? Well, she followed her back to Bethlehem, even though she was leaving her own family behind. She had a great love, and she put all that aside, and she followed Naomi. And she said, your people are going to be my people. And, where you live, I'm going to live. So that's a great thing, a lot to do in the name of love. Another one was Esther and Mordecai. Esther loved and trusted Mordecai with her life. And so in the name of love, because she loved and trusted Mordecai, her uncle, she did what he said. even though she knew it could mean her death. She knew he was right, but she had so much trust in Mordecai. And she took that step, and she knew that approaching the king without being called could mean her life. And yet she still did it. That's a lot to do in the name of love. So these are all great examples of people doing things in the name of love. Love will make us do crazy things, will it not? It'll make my husband shop with me sometimes. He doesn't like to shop, but he does it. And you know what? He doesn't make me miserable while he's doing it with me, even though I know he doesn't like it at all.
Nick hates Bath and Body
Yeah.
Works, and he'll go in there.
Yep.
And this last time he bought stuff for himself, but that's something he does not like
Yep.
to do. He doesn't.
That's in the name of love. That is doing something in the name of love. So let's apply this to our relationship with God. What do we do in the name of love for God? As Christians, we say we love God, but what do we do in the name of God, in the name of that love? How are we showing God our love? And it's important that we take time in the busyness of life, in the busyness of our Christian life and living for God, that we just slow down and say, okay, what am I doing to show God how much I love him? Just like I need to nurture that relationship, and the more mature I become and the more mine and Pastor's relationship matures, the more I have an understanding of how I need to show that love and how I need him to show me that love. And it's the same way with God. The more that we grow in grace in our relationship with Jesus, the more we need to understand that God has already shown us his love. And he continues to, but he showed us his love on Calvary. And then through so many things all day long, every day, every second, God continues to show us loves. I just call them hugs or smiles, and I love that. But what do I do to show him how much I love him? And you know what? It's just like me going through the football game and not loving it. It was sacrificial on a very small scale, sacrificial of me to sit there and watch that football game and listen to all the stuff that I knew I was probably going to forget. But I'm going to try to learn because I love him. And so it does take sacrifice on our part, but doesn't anything worth having, any type of relationship worth having, take work? It is no different with our relationship with the Lord Jesus. So how are we showing God that love in the red underlined? We're going to go to 1 John 3:18. 1 John 3:18. All right, 1 John 3:18 says, "My little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and in truth." Indeed, we're supposed to do to show our love. If I just tell Pastor that I love him every day and I never show it, he's not going to believe me after a while. You've heard that saying, talk's cheap, and anybody can say it, but if I do things to show it, that just puts the emphasis behind that. So we're supposed to do it indeed, show God that love. John 14:5, let's turn there together.
Can I add to that?
You sure can.
It's in deed and in truth. We can tell if someone is faking it.
Yeah.
And it would make it all the more, you didn't enjoy it, but you are striving to learn more about it so to please him. So you're putting yourself into it, not just,
Right.
Your
you know,
body face.
so that, I think that was
In truth.
truth.
In truth, yep. Yep. And I'm not I wasn't sitting there going, oh yes, this is great. He knows, I know, God knows that that's not really the truth. Now, I did find it interesting, so I found the things that, just like when he's shopping with me, I know he doesn't love it, but he tries to find the things in it that, make it more palatable. And That's all. You're very right, in word and in truth. John 14:5. Let's read that together. Wait. Oh, I'm in Acts. Wait till I get to John.
I just think of different things that I've done, and Eric knows that I'm not putting myself into it. And so it's like, and truth hit me on that one.
I have got I'm sorry. That should say 15. You got to put a 1 before that 5. Every time.
That's funny.
All right, so it's John 14:15. And let's read that together. If ye love me, keep my commandments. So easy, yet so hard. I mean, it doesn't get any more simple than that. If ye love me, okay? Who here loves God? No, Aaliyah? Yeah, I know, see ya. We all love God. Do we keep his commandments? Okay, if I said, I'll use his name, Jim, I love you. Tim, Julie, would you go get me a cup of coffee? Nope. Okay. Jim, I love you. Julie, can you make sure my shirts are ironed? No, I don't have time. Okay. Jim, I love you. Julie, would you mind making a meal where my food's not all touching? And nope, you get what you get, and if you're hungry, you eat it. That is not love. That is not love. You see how much I'm saying I love you, but the things that I'm not doing do not show him, that they do not show love. Me doing shows that love. And this is, God says, if you love me, keep my commandments. And so we have to ask ourselves, okay, so we all raised our hands that we love God. Ask ourselves, am I keeping his commandments? Okay? It's not just talking about the 10 commandments, but by all means keep those. But he's talking about every instruction he gives us in his word. And I put down at the bottom, some other ones, but we'll go over just a few of them. So turn to Exodus 20, verse 3. And this is where the commandments begin. And if you do not know the 10 Commandments, I encourage you to learn them, okay? And I know it's difficult when we get older to learn things, but if you've never learned them, this is how I learn. I told you, I know hand motions, okay? Mm-hmm. So let me try to do them. There's no way I could memorize this other. Commandment 1, thou shalt have no other God before me. No other gods before me. Commandment number 2. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. Here's an image bowing down, or me bowing down to an image. Number 3 is like a W in words. Let me see. Don't tell me. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. So it's a W by my mouth. That's how I remember it, because it's commandment number 3. Number 4. Remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. Okay? Because I've got a chapel here, 2 and 2. The 4th commandment, chapel. Number 5, honor thy father and thy mother. Is that 5? Yeah, I believe it is. Number 5. Number 6. Number 6. Yeah, this is hard. I'm telling you. This is the only way I'll remember them. Thou shalt not kill. Number 7. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Am I getting these right?
Yep, so far.
The reason why I can remember that one, 7, is because this is mom and dad and these are the kids. Okay, so it helps if I do that. Number 8, thou shalt not steal, because you get your thumbs cut off.
Yep.
In some countries. Number 9, hand on the Bible. Yeah, hand on the Bible in court. So, like this, thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not bear false witness.
Yep.
And number 10, thou shalt not covet. Take the gimme, 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 gimme. Okay, so you see, and it was a struggle, but I did it. You know, because a couple years ago, I determined I was going to know the 10 Commandments. But I know me, so I know I have to figure out a way to help me to memorize. And God did. You know, I taught it to the kids, and I can still go back and do it. So anyway, you know, how are we going to know God's commandment? How are we going to obey Him if we don't know Him? So we need to read Him, and we need to hide Him in our heart. How about the next one? Letting our light shine before men. Matthew 5:16. Let's go there. And you say, I can't memorize. You know what? Do what you have to memorize. But at the very least we can do is be reading them. Matthew 5:16 says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. I say I love God. Am I keeping this commandment? Let your light so shine before men. Okay, there are things that we can do to obey that commandment of God's. Let our light so shine before men. We can live differently. That's what this is talking about. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your God which is in heaven. Be kind of like, you know, sometimes when we have a funeral here and the family is unsaved. Mm-hmm. And we try to do everything we can to make that as nice and peaceful and so that they don't have to worry about anything. And I've had people say, why would you guys do this for people you barely know? You know, be part of the funeral party. And, you know, they've come up and said that. Said, this is just wonderful. Why would you guys do this? You know, and, you know, the answer is because we love you. We love the people, you know, the member that's passed. We want to show that love of God. So there are things that we can do to so let our light shine before men. So if we're not looking at that as a commandment, it is. God wants us to do that in order so that we can say, it's all Him. And like that verse says, glorify Him. So how about soul winning? Mark 16:15. Mark 16:15 says, and He said unto them, this is Jesus, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. It's the Great Commission. God has told us to do that. It's a commandment. Let's go back to that verse where it says, John 14:15, if ye love me, keep my commandment. Okay, so God commands us in Mark 16:15, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. That's us, whether it be through missions or through soul winning. We're not supposed to keep the gospel to ourselves. We're supposed to be sharing it. It's a commandment. I love God, and I want to let God know that I love Him. So even though it's hard for me sometimes to pass out a tract, and even harder for me to talk to somebody about Jesus, I do it because I want to show Him I love Him. And He's commanded it. And what better way for me to show God that I love Him than to obey Him like He commanded? How about being faithful at church? Hebrews 10:25, and we do this one a lot. Thanks. Hebrews 10:25, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much more as ye see the day approaching. Most of the churches around us do not have but one service maybe a week. If they're doing, very few are going to have two. We have 3, and we have a prayer service. If ye love me, keep my commandments. Forsake.
There's a lot of them going out soul winning.
No. No. That's just what I'm saying is, we say we love God, let's show Him. I want to show God I'm serious about my love for Him. I need to do something that nails me to the cross, sacrifices me, die daily, to show that I love God. Remember, if it's worth having, if that relationship is worth having, it's going to take work. I want that relationship with God. I want him to know that I love him. So the best way for me to do that is to obey him. He said it himself. It doesn't get any clearer. And how about loving one another? John 13:34. John 13:34. My goodness. Okay. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another, as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. A new commandment he gave us.
The next one's a really good one too.
Sure, we'll read that. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. We're supposed to love one another. As the family of God, we're supposed to love. I'm almost done. It's so good, so happy. Yeah. So we're supposed to love one another. If ye love me, keep my commandments. Okay, remember that was John 14:15. This verse says, and this is Jesus talking in red, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another. If ye love me, keep my commandments. You know, he's made it so very clear and simple for us in all these areas. It's just, remember, I used to tell you when the kids were little, I'd just be like, your life will be so easy if you just do one thing. Obey mom and dad. Yep. You know, when they were really little, that's all they had to do. It is the same way with us. But it's more than just that that's what I should be doing. I want to do it because I love him, because I want to show him I love him. And the things that we'll do for love, I mean, if we'll do these things for each other and for my husband and that kind of stuff, surely I can sacrifice me and my time and whatever to show God that I love him. We don't take it seriously enough, you know, this relationship that we have with the Lord, or that we're supposed to have. It can be so much sweeter than what we have just by saying, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. No, Satan. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. And just walking close with him. And we just draw closer and closer to him, and that relationship becomes so much sweeter. Here's just a couple areas we're not going to go to that we could be doing in the name of love. We are supposed to be praying in the name of love. We're, pray without ceasing. That's a commandment. That is something that we're supposed to do. So it's not an option. Tithing, not an option. Something we're supposed to do that can say, you know what, I do this because we once did have somebody ask us, why do you guys give what you give? Because I want to show God I love him and I trust him. Yep, that's the bottom line. Being kind. Ephesians 4:32 says, be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another. Okay, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be kind. I'm not supposed to be an ugly person. And sometimes the ugly Julie rears her head and, but our goal should be to be kind and to love one another. And how about studying God's word? In the name of love for God, he's already told me to do it. Study to show thyself approved, so that I'm not ashamed when people ask. And I have a hard time. It doesn't stick. Oh, it just bothers me so bad. But I keep at it because I want to show God that I love him. That's all this is about, is doing things. What are we doing in the name of love for God? Really evaluate it this week. What are you doing? What more could I be doing to show God how much I love him? I know my husband knows I love him because of other stuff I do. But I found this one area that I can show him a little bit more that I love him. And it means sacrificial a little bit on my part, but hey, it's worth it. What more can I do to show God that I love him? That I'm serious about this love that I have for him? Let's think about that this week. All right? All right. Jen, you want to close us in a word of prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you